podcast. I'm your host, as always, Adam Martin. I'll be taking you guys through the latest in the world of MMA. Guys, follow me on Twitter at MMAOB. This podcast is available at MMAOddsbreaker.com. Go to our YouTube channel, like, share, subscribe, tell your friends about it. Also, check me out at bjpen.com and MMARings.net. So, pretty good show today lined up. Got a couple fight announcements to talk about, but first and foremost, I want to get into the Contender Series. It was the last episode of the third season of the Contender Series last night. There were 3 contracts handed out, so let's get right into it. I'll start with the top and work my way down. So, main event. Dusko Todorovic defeats Teddy Ash via unanimous decision to improve his record to 9-0, and Dana White did sign Todorovic to a contract. I'm excited to see this guy in the UFC. This wasn't his best performance, obviously. He's 25 years old, though. He's very young, 9-0. All his wins before this were by stoppage, including that win over Michel Pereira in his last fight. And Michel Pereira looked amazing against Danny Roberts. So I think this is a good sign by the UFC. I'm kind of glad Dana didn't pass on this guy. I think if they did pass on him, Bellator or someone else would have swooped in and grabbed him right away. So smart signing, I think, by the UFC, even though this wasn't his best performance. And for Teddy Ash, still one of the top Canadian prospects out there, 14-5 record. It's not great, but he's been fighting some pretty high-level guys. He has some good wins. I see him possibly getting a shot in the UFC at some point on a short notice, but definitely needs to go back to the Canadian regional scene, get a win or two, and maybe he'll get the call back up. I hope so, because it's always nice to see some Canadians in the UFC. So as far as the odds go, Todorovic was obviously a big favorite for that fight. He closed at, just checking right now, closed at minus 265. So no surprise there. Next up, and I called this upset, guys, so I got to give myself some credit here. This was the biggest upset in the card. Impa Kasanganay defeats Kaylin Hill via unanimous decision, plus 485 underdog. When I gave him all yesterday, plus 270, I just liked everything about this guy. You know, the fact that he's such a young fighter in the sport, the fact that he's so new to the sport, that's probably what's turned some people off, but it's what attracted me to this guy. The fact that he has 5 wins now, or 6 wins, I should say, in 8 months of fighting, that's incredible to me. So this guy is a really good fighter, and to get him at plus 485, I mean, that's a steal. So once again, another big upset in the Contender Series. You got to kind of sniff them out sometimes, and this was one where I really felt strongly about the underdog, and he pulls out with the victory. Dana White did not sign him, though. They passed on Impa Kasanganay. Dana said he doesn't have enough experience. I mean, I don't know what to say. Like, once again, why bring him on the show if you knew you're going to pass on him? The guy does everything he has to do. Didn't get the finish, but still picks up a win as a massive underdog, and you go and pass on him. And Dana's like, he needs more fights. One of the other pros is going to grab him. That's a mistake. And Dana even said, this is why another thing I'm confused about. Dana said so many times this season, I'm looking for the next world champion. I'm looking for the next top contender. Then he goes and says, I think Impa's going to be a top 5 guy, or if not a champion one day. But he passes on him? Very strange. Why not give him a developmental deal? Why not keep him around in the organization? Give him a developmental deal, send him to LFA, let him fight a couple more times. Very strange. Bad decision here by Dana White. Not the first one he's made this season. He's made some good decisions on guys, but this was a really bad decision. Impa Kasanganay is a good fighter. He's 25 years old. He's only going to get better from here, guys. I'm excited to see this guy's career play out. I think he's going to be a really good fighter for a long time. This was a bad decision by Dana White passing on this guy. Who knows? I mean, I doubt he changes his mind. Dana's a stubborn guy. Remember what happened with Brendan Lofton earlier this year, but maybe there was opportunity and the matchmakers convinced him to come to the UFC, or let Dana White let him come to the UFC, but I don't know. We'll see what happens here. If not, Bellator, PFL, ONE, LFA even, like any of these promotions should be signing this guy. He's a really good young fighter, and he's going to get signed very soon. So bad decision here by Dana White to pass on Impa Kasanganay, but anyone who bet on him last night, plus 45, money in the bank. Next up, another upset here is Peter Barrett defeats Sang Hoon Yu via unanimous decision. Peter Barrett cashed as a plus 160 dog. Good win for Peter Barrett here. I'm a little surprised they signed him. I got to be honest. He's 33 years old, but his story really is very, very strong. And the guy has a lot of experience. He's a good fighter, clearly. The fact that he lost his brother and his father in such a short period of time, he was dealing with so many personal issues, still persevered, made it this far. Dana White gave him a deal. Again, I think he's a good fighter, but it's just weird how Dana said so many times this season, we're not going to sign guys that are older. And then they bring them on the show and they pass on them. But in this case, he did sign them. So I'm glad he did. It's just very inconsistent. Remember Chris Curtis, I think it was last year or 2 years ago, and Dana said he's too old. We're going to pass on him. Like, it's just strange. It's very strange. In this case, he's a Boston guy. I think that helped him out. Either way, I think it's a good signing. The guy looked good last night, no doubt about it. But it's just strange, again, how Dana's so inconsistent with his reasoning. Next up, heavyweight bout ends in a no contest, so no one won here as an underdog or favorite. It's basically a pick-up fight anyways, but Ben Sassoli pokes Justin Johnson in the eye, and the fight ends in the first round. Dana White says that he's going to get Ben Sassoli on an episode of Looking for the Fight. I don't know about Dustin Johnson. I kind of feel bad for the guy who gets poked in the eye and then probably doesn't get another fight, but it is what it is. He is a heavyweight. They always need heavyweights, so maybe he'll get a short notice chance in the UFC, but neither of these guys get the deal right now. And the last fight here would be TJ Brown defeating Dylan Lockhart via third round submission, arm triangle choke. Man, this guy, he worked so hard for the submission, gets it, and Dana White gives TJ Brown a contract. 14-6 record. He cashed as a minus 125 favorite, so very small favorite here. Picks up the win. Good signing here, I think, for the UFC. I mean, the guy's definitely picked up a couple of nice wins in a row here. 4 straight wins, including 2 by head kick and 2 by arm triangle choke. That's the kind of guy you want in the UFC. He's got a lot of arm triangle chokes on his record, including one over Peter Barrett. He has like 6 or 7 arm triangle chokes. That's incredible. So clearly that's a signature move. This guy's good. Good signing. His record's not amazing by any means, but the guy's improved a lot the last couple years, and 4 straight wins, all by stoppage. And that's what the UFC likes. You know, Dana White said in the post-fight press conference, or scrum, I should say, it's not all about finishes. I think that helps for sure, and I think in this case it did help. So TJ Brown gets the deal. So the UFC gives up 3 more contracts, and they gave out a lot of contracts this season. It's over now. I think it was a really good season for sure, just like the last 2, but I kind of got tired of Dana's just inconsistencies regarding his rationale for either passing or taking guys. It just kind of got annoying over the 3 months, and I know I'm not the only one who feels this way. I saw a lot of other fans feeling the same way over the last few months, and including hardcore fans, just saying, you know, I really like the show, but I'm a little confused what the point of it is. And I kind of agree. Like, it's almost, you know, they asked Dana in the press, in the scrum afterwards, is this about having content or is it about finding new fighters? He says it's just about finding new fighters, new prospects. I have the feeling it's a little bit more about having content than he's leading on to. So it is what it is. Anyways, a good season in the Contender Series. Dana White says there's not going to be enough talent to make another season this year, but absolutely next summer. I'm looking forward to it once again. It looks like it's basically a staple of the UFC's calendar every summer. So it's a good show. I just wish there was a little bit more consistency regarding who gets signed and why they get signed. Okay, a couple pieces of news here. Anthony Johnson is back in the news. Anthony Rumble Johnson. And guess what? Anthony Johnson wants to return to MMA as a heavyweight. I don't think this comes as a surprise for anyone. I mean, this guy has been kind of hinting at a return for a little while now. And he hasn't fought since 2017. But if he returned in 2020, about 3 years since he last fought. His last fight against Daniel Cormier in 2010, April 2017, excuse me, at UFC 210. Lost by submission. Before that, had won 3 straight fights by knockout. He was looking like an absolute beast at light heavyweight. Rumble's a great fighter. He's only 35, so he's still pretty young for that division, especially in heavyweight. I think he'll have a lot of success as heavyweight. I've seen his pictures. He looks massive. Guy's an awesome fighter, a lot of experience. The layoff obviously concerns me, but I think he'll do really well if he does come back. And it looks like he is going to come back. And one other piece of news here to note was Shannon Knapp was at the Contender Series last night. And Shannon Knapp's the president of Invicta. And Dana White says that she wants to bring Invicta to Las Vegas and do their shows there on the Friday night before the big events on Saturday, which I think is great. Great idea. I love the fact that they'd have 2 fights during the same fight week. They used to do that a couple years ago. They kind of went away from that, but it makes a lot of sense. It looks like Invicta's not going to be doing the Kansas City thing anymore. So they've obviously had a great run over there, but I think it is time to make that step up to the next to the next big show. So I think Las Vegas is a great spot for Invicta. It gives Dana White the opportunity to see these young female fighters up and close. Great idea. So I think Shannon Knapp is a genius. I've said this many times. She knows more about MMA than most people do. So she's great, and I think this is a really smart move. Couple fight announcements to talk about here. UFC Mexico City. Alex Perez, I mentioned the other day, is injured out of the fight with Sergio Pettis, and now Tyson Nam gets signed to the UFC on short notice, and he's going to be fighting Sergio Pettis. So Tyson Nam, as you guys remember, a few years ago, it might be more than a few. No, I'm going to double check here. It's been a while, actually. 2012. Wow. He knocked out Eduardo Dantas in Chudo, Brazil, and it was a massive upset at the time. Eduardo Dantas was the Bellator champ, and Tyson Nam knocked him out. Tyson Nam's a guy who fought in Elite XC. He fought in Icon Sport. I'm very familiar with Tyson Nam. He was a big staple of those Hawaii events. He went to WSOF. He lost to Marlon Moraes, Coley Bollinger, and after that kind of struggled a little bit, lost a bunch of fights, and then went back to Hawaii, picked up a couple wins, went over to Russia, actually knocked out Ali Bagotina via head kick. He actually lost his last fight, so it's a little surprising he's getting signed after losing his last fight. I'm going to double check that, but according to Wikipedia, he did lose his last fight. Let me double check Tapology. So that's a little surprising. Actually, no, that's wrong. See, you got to double check this stuff. Yeah, Tapology has him having 2 more wins this year. So I was wrong, but I had to double check there. So he's actually won 2 fights since he last lost in Finance Global last year. I think it's a good signing. I mean, this guy is definitely a solid fighter. He should have been in the UFC a while ago. He's 35 now. He's an older guy for the 135-pound, or I should say 125-pound weight class. He's moving down to flyweight for this fight. But I think it is a good signing. He's a solid fighter. He has knockout power. He has some good wins on his resume. I mean, Ali Bagotina was a great win, especially by knockout. That's an awesome win. Ali's won 5 straight fights since he's fought him. So Ali's looked amazing since then. And actually, he might be a guy the UFC eventually brings back to the full as well. So we'll see what happens here. But he takes on Sergio Pettis. Sergio's lost 2 straight fights, but he's still a really good fighter. He had that win over Joseph Benavidez just last year, and the guy's solid. So this is going to be a good fight. I would imagine Pettis will be favored, but Tyson Nam definitely is going to give him a good fight here. Pettis, though, 26, a lot younger, more experienced in the UFC, probably should be favored to get the win here. UFC 244 gets a welterweight fight. I like this fight a lot. Lyman Good takes on Chance Rencountre. It's a good fight. Lyman Good is a guy that I've liked for a long time. He's coming off a submission loss, I should say, to Damian Maia. He's 2-2 in the UFC overall. So not a great record in the UFC, but his losses are to Elizeu Zaleski dos Santos and Damian Maia, and he knocked out Andrew Craig and Ben Saunders. Now he takes on Chance Rencountre, who's surprised a little bit in the UFC. 2-1 record. He beat Ismail Nardiev. He beat Kyle Stewart. He lost to Bilal Muhammad. He's won 6 of his last 7 fights. This is a good fight. Chance Rencountre is actually a much better fighter than I thought at first. He's looked really good in the UFC. But Lyman Good is a guy that has a lot of KO power, and he's a very accomplished fighter. Should be a close fight. I imagine Lyman Good is going to be the favorite, but don't sleep on Chance Rencountre in this one. Next up, featherweight bout, or I should say, actually, this is a lightweight bout. Luis Pena is moving back to lightweight, of course. He fought his last one there against Matt Wyman, and he comes back to take on Matt Frevola at UFC Tampa Bay. So Luis Pena is coming off a win over Matt Wyman, like I said, and that was a really brutal win. He absolutely destroyed Matt Wyman. I don't know why Matt Wyman came back to fight. Probably should stay retired. But anyways, Luis Pena, 7-1 record, 3-1 in the UFC, back-to-back wins now over Wyman and Peterson. He had the one loss to Mike Trezano by split decision. Mike Trezano obviously won the Ultimate Fighter. That wasn't that bad of a loss. And he comes back to take on Matt Frevola, who's looked a little better than I think a lot of us expect as well in the UFC. Matt Frevola, 29 years old. He is 1-1 in the UFC. He's coming off a great win, though, over Jalen Turner, which surprised a lot of people, including myself. Looked really good in that fight. He actually has quite a bit of experience. He's fought for Titan. He's fought for WSOF. He's fought for the Contender Series and, of course, the UFC. This should be a good fight. I think Pena probably is favored. He's such a big dude, and he's looked really good lately. But don't sleep on Matt Frevola. He's an underrated fighter. And finally, a women's bout between Duda Santana and Leah Letson has been added to UFC Sao Paulo. I believe this is a bantamweight bout. Let me check that. I'm pretty sure it is. Duda Santana, 3-1 record. She lost to Bea Malecki in her UFC debut. That was a weird fight. I mean, she was winning this fight, and all of a sudden I think she got taken down from like a errant toss or something. Malecki ended up on top, took her back, and then submitted her. So it was a really bad way to lose. But definitely the first round she looked good. I remember that fight pretty well. Takes on Leah Letson here, and Letson 5-1 record. She's coming off a win over Julia Stoliarenko via split decision last year. And she also has a win over Elizabeth Phillips in Invicta via head kick. So she's a pretty solid fighter. I mean, it's in Brazil, so maybe Santana's going to be favored, but don't sleep on Letson here. She definitely could win the fight. I'm going to double check and see if there's anything else I wanted to talk about today, but I think that's it. I guess one thing I wanted to mention was Dana White was asked about Darren Till, why he's fighting Kelvin Gastelum. I like the fight. I know a lot of people think that's too much too soon for Darren Till, I should say. But Dana White said basically he forced his hand. He said, I want this fight. This is the fight I want. It's the only fight I want. He's going to take it. And that's why they booked it. So I think that's about it. Just double checking, but that's about it for now. The odds are out for UFC China. Full odds, complete odds. Myself and Cole Sheldon broke down the full card yesterday on this podcast. Go back and check it out, guys. I'd appreciate that. As far as new odds go, anything new? No, don't see anything really relevant to mention. Yeah, that's about it. The odds are up for UFC 242 next week, but I'll talk about that next Tuesday with Cole. So anyways, guys, I appreciate you tuning in, as always, to the podcast. I'm Adam Martin. You can check me out on my Twitter. Also, this podcast, as well as my home, is MMAOddsbreaker.com. Check us out there anytime you want for the best advice as far as MMA betting goes, and some really good podcasts as well. Myself, Mike's Fight Picks, Nick and Brian do a great podcast, so check that out. Check the other podcasts out. Check me out at bjpenn.com and also MMARings.net. I definitely will be sending an article there this week talking about the title fight between Jessica Andrade and Weili Zhang. Guys, once again, thanks for joining me. I'll be back tomorrow talking about the latest in the world of MMA. Have a good day, guys. I'll see you later.